Good morning and welcome everyone to TomoClub. And today we're uh, here together to discuss a little bit about social media addiction, and we're here to talk a little bit about how SEL can help in curbing social media addiction in kids. Right? So I'm going to give the space to Matt to talk a little bit about what TomoClub is and what we do and how we function. So over to you, Matt.
Yeah, welcome everyone. So I was actually thinking about this today. In really simple terms, what we do is we have games that teach life skills. And not only that, we have an environment that we've created where kids play games together to gain confidence in the different life skills that all of us know are going to be able to create success in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Matt. Just wanted to add on to what you were talking about. So we are an educational gaming club for grades 3 to 12, and we focus on fostering social, emotional, and 21st century skills. Right? So I'm going to share my screen and walk you all through a short video of which would explain exactly what we do. Right? Let me know if you can see it and if you can hear it as well.
The world can be a challenging place, and for many students, navigating it can be overwhelming. Low self-confidence, a sense of not belonging, rising mental health concerns, and even suicidal incidents are just some of the issues affecting our youth today.
Traditional social emotional learning curriculums are falling short in addressing these concerns, with limited engagement and poor learning retention. But what if learning these skills could be fun and engaging, like playing a game? Introducing TomoClub, a game-based SEL curriculum that transforms education. Each class becomes an immersive multiplayer game session where students learn essential leadership, collaborative problem solving, and emotional intelligence skills.
Educators have full control over the game session and can easily set it up for the class. The program is aligned with CASA framework, COPPA compliant, making it suitable for students in grades 3 through 12. And after each game session, educators receive a personalized snapshot of each child's progress. TomoClub's game-based approach provides the most engaging, interactive learning experience students want.
TomoClub is transforming social emotional learning in classrooms across the nation. We've been receiving great efficacy reports of our program with 95% student retention, tremendous improvement in classroom behavior and mental well-being, which in turn improves academic outcomes. Unlock the future for your students. Contact us today to experience the most engaging SEL curriculum ever created.
All right. So that was a brief introduction into what TomoClub is and what our agenda is, right? So I'm your host, Chelsea Dean, and I'm excited to walk everyone through what social media addiction is and what it looks like in kids, and also help, give a few strategies that can help parents to work with their kids, right, to curb these problems. And today we have with us Matthew Neal, who is a parent to teenagers and also a game evangelist. So welcome, Matt. And just want to start right away, right? So why is there a need to understand or even address social media addiction in kids? What has your experience been before we deep dive into it? Like, what has your experience been in the past few years with respect to the use of social media with kids and even in adults and people around you? How do you see that changing or evolving?
I would, oh, well, it's constantly changing. It's something that you have to empower kids because it changes so fast. You have to help them. They have to help you navigate
Yeah.
what exists. In a nutshell, I have I don't fight the screen time addiction, but the social media addiction, because of how detrimental it's been to young girls. And well, just because of that, we've really limited the amount of social media that both of our teen girls are exposed to. But I have been a part of Be Real, which is where you take a picture of yourself. Your phone tells you to take a picture of yourself front and back. It tells you sometime during the day, and you have 2 minutes to get ready.
Yeah.
And Emmeline and I both downloaded that, and then we walked through it together. We used it together. We were part of it, a group together. And after 2 weeks, I just said, "Hey, I'm deleting this app. This is all. Look at all the parents. They're not happy. Why would I want a picture of sad parents?" But it helped her see that her friends were taking a picture that wasn't actually just a Be Real. They were getting ready during the day, and and so I helping her navigate those waters, and helping both of my girls look at what does this social media option have for you? What are the benefits of it? So that's really where we like to start.
Thanks for sharing that, Matt. And I think one of the things that you've been doing as a method of, having these conversations with these kids is to help them regulate the use of social media, right? By intervening or at least starting off with them, right? And then helping them make the right decision, or helping them be responsible for their own decisions, right? Do you agree, or do you think there's something else on your mind?
I totally agree. It's been really interesting with all of the young people that are around me to ask them questions about the tools that they're using.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you use that app for? Hey, what are you doing that for? And just to even ask that question, really, I think in my head tries to draw a line between time that's beneficial, because I think you have to be real.
Yeah.
Reality bats last, and we're all going to spend too much screen time. We're all addicted. We can't admit it. That's fine. We need the dopamine, but we have to be able to help the people around us navigate what exists, and I think sometimes they can even help us. I think that's one of the really big keys, is to be vulnerable yourself and say, "Hey, look, you see how much time I waste on LinkedIn or on Facebook?"
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks. Thank you for sharing that, Matt. And as we all know, I think children, especially teens, are more prone to getting addicted to social media. And also it's because it's their formational years, right? And they're trying to learn from everything that's possible around in their environments, and their brains are still developing. They're still trying to get a hang of what's right, what's wrong, what fits best for my life, how do I make the most of what, and in a very, very evolutionarily fashion manner, right? And biologically and developmentally fashion manner. So we know that it's also because of the easy availability of and the access to these gadgets that help them connect even faster to the internet, and now at anywhere and at any time, right? So there's no particular space where you wouldn't find internet, unless you're on the hills and there's no internet connection at all. You've gone for a hike or something, but because there's this constant connection with a world that is mostly virtual, we want to stay connected because that's like our innate nature, right? To stay connected to as many people as possible, because at the end of the day, we are social beings, whether we're introverts or extroverts. Even if we're introverts, we want to stay connected to those whom we consider close to us, right? So social media becomes a method, or at least a way to just keep in touch or keep contact with people, right? No matter where you are. So just wanted to give a disclaimer here that any form of addiction, any form, right, requires different levels of intervention. So
Yeah.
some of the suggestions that we'll be speaking about within this session will be around curbing the onset of addiction, right? So before, say, a child completely gets immersed into social media or um, feels the detrimental effects of uh, social media, right? We need to understand what are those common signs that enable us to, just which just raises a red flag for us, right? Where we just need to intervene right away. So some of the common signs, or before that, I would just like to state a few statistics that I was just exploring and came across. It said that on an average, children, so that would mean around 8 years old to close to 13 years old, spent 76% longer on social media apps in 2020 than they did in 2019,
Mm,
right? So that's a huge jump. So one of the reasons was definitely the pandemic, because everyone was homebound and getting out of the house wasn't an option. So of course there had to be some way to just navigate that or channel that energy somewhere. So social media became one of those platforms. And another one that I came across was that 27% of children who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media also displayed poor mental health, right? And that's something that's extremely concerning, not just for parents, but also for teachers and for this entire ecosystem where we're trying to build we're trying to help, or we're trying to push the new generation into becoming better uh, citizens, humane citizens, right? So when one cannot take care of themselves, how do we expect an entire generation to be caring for everyone around them, right? Like, how do we enable children to take care of themselves, right? Especially in the age where everyone is using social media, right? So even the parents. So
right.
if anything has to be communicated, it also helps be modeled. What are your thoughts on this statistic that I just shared? Have you had any such experiences where you've seen that happening right around you, not just with your kids, but kids in general, like in the community that you're in?
Well, I want to say a couple of different things. I think to sit down and communicate clearly what you are
Mhm.
is you start with that relationship, but you say, hey, look, do you realize that you're the product here? Realize how this is free, and but really engaging relationally is important. But when we were getting ready for this, I was trying to think of a really good just analogy for this. And when I grew up, and the whole time that we've been educating our kids, it's like we want everyone to read. You need to read, you need to read, you need to read everything, read. And they did a study when I in the 90s, and it's vague, I know, anecdotal, but they did a study in the 90s, and the research found that the children who read were not the children whose parents made them read. They were the children who saw their parents reading.
Right.
And so I was thinking about, with social media use, it's one of those things that I think as a parent and as an educator, you have to own it first and realize, hey, somebody's watching me. What I do is important, and my children have taught me lessons through the years and said, hey, dude, I don't think you and mom should be on Facebook so much.
Yeah.
And if you got an 8-year-old telling you that, that's the kind of thing that you have to listen to.
Yeah.
I think what is different about TomoClub is it's not just screen time. It's not just a class. It's redeemable engagement experiences, if that makes sense. It's time where that time is being where your child is growing and they're being molded and shaped.
Yeah.
And in a safe environment. That's the beauty of TomoClub and the gamification, because we all want to be able to try our emotions out, or at least learn what they are and how to identify them in a safe place. It's one of the most important things, to feel like, okay, look, I can bring my own real self.
Absolutely. And definitely, thanks for sharing that again, Matt. I think when we're talking about like TomoClub also, we're talking about SEL skills, right? Like everything that we're trying to do, even at TomoClub, we're trying to teach SEL skills, or at least foster the skills that they already have, right? And help them hone them to an extent where they're able to apply it in their day-to-day lives. So I think one of the things that you were mentioning about how your kids pointing out that maybe this is something that's not very wise. I think that's an exceptional social emotional skill to have, right? Having that self-awareness and social awareness to, you know, regulate not just yourself, but also those around you, right? Or just to help them, uh, you know, build that sort of empathy towards others around them. So that's a crucial social emotional skill for kids to already hone, right? And so that means that that's something that they had been exploring, and that was something that they were, I mean, also learning from their environment and how they've grown into also pointing that out for others, because that's kind of the normal that they expect. So absolutely, yeah. Hope you're okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, okay. All right. So some of the common signs, just to point out, is I mean, I think this is something that we which raises like an alarm right away, is kids spending too much time or excessive time on social media platforms, right? Whether it's clicking a lot of pictures, whether it's editing a lot of pictures for certain social media posts, spending excessively, even monetarily, right? Like some of the kids have started spending money to be on certain social media platforms, right? Having difficulty focusing on other activities. So there are certain kids who would, get distracted because I may have a message somewhere and I need to focus on that too, but I also have my homework to finish. But that focus just gets lost after a point, right? If not lost, that focus just gets, I mean, there's a very blurred line, right? Between thinking that, okay, I'm focusing on something else, but there's a blurred line on thinking whether it's productive or not, right? Or
Right.
making it productive. And that's another one. Another common sign is to see withdrawals and symptoms when they're away from social media. So having any sort of anxiety or feeling left out or isolation, these are a few things that do come up when you feel like something very important has been taken away from you, right? Because it was a part of you. That's how addiction also works, right? But also, as soon as something that has wired your brain to think that, okay, this is my normal, once that's taken away from you, your brain is constantly thinking about how do I get back to it, right? Or why am I not getting it? Now, for the brain to rewire, it takes a lot of time. So the early signs would be to see how a child would react if there's no social media, uh, you know, for them. But, however, that's just one very small aspect. No, I'm not suggesting that it should be taken away right away, right? It
Right.
has to be done in a very systematic manner. That's a completely different story altogether. But yeah, that's one of the signs to watch out for. Another thing is about neglecting personal responsibilities, right? It could be also personal hygiene. It could be responsibilities like chores at home, or taking care of someone or themselves rather, right? So it's these different parameters that need to be assessed by the parent or the teachers if at all they see something that is pervasive in their lives or something that is impairing their functioning, right? Their day-to-day functioning in aspect.
And Chelsea, one of the practical strategies that we have for that is we have a drawer in our kitchen where everybody's phone goes at night. So that they're, whatever social media or any media that they're on,
Yeah.
by 10 o'clock, it's at least shut off at that point, and I think one of the really important strategies, not just in social media, but in all of media, is really to engage with the person that is consuming the
Absolutely.
media itself, and
Mhm.
really start with them and say, hey, what is it that you're trying to get out of this? I think that that's a really important part. I think it's something that's, as a parent, it's very easy to skip over. It's very easy to say, hey, this is all bad, just
Mhm.
because I'm not wise enough to figure it all out, or it's too daunting. That's the other thing. I will give this practical strategy, which your kids will all be able to get around. But Google is very, very good. Their family sharing program is fantastic. It will at least give you the ability to see what's happening across your family's network, which, if you're managing 6 or 7 networks and you're not that bright, it can be a really good tool.
Yeah, but thanks for sharing that, Matt. Definitely, Google Family Sharing is one such way to, regulate or even serve, having that sort of surveillance to uh, just see that everyone's on the right path. Of course, giving autonomy is a huge part of a teenager's life, right? And for parents to grant autonomy to kids, but that's definitely a conversation for another time. But yeah, autonomy is definitely a key component in helping them regulate and helps them also build awareness. But yeah, I completely agree with you in terms of even younger students or younger kids to for the parents to just regulate or just to have that sort of surveillance with their usage on any platform. So I think now let's just deep dive into SEL being used to address social media addiction, right? So we know that social and emotional learning refers to the process of developing self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And we also know that it empowers children to understand and manage their emotions, helps them build real connections and positive relationships, and also helps them make better, responsible decisions and choices in different aspects of their lives. Right? And of course, the same thing can be directly imposed into their social media interactions or their digital interactions, right? So this monitoring that we keep thinking about how do we monitor our kids, I think it starts at a very early age. That monitoring can directly be given, like the responsibility can directly be given to the child to monitor themselves, right? Because of course, again, depending upon the age, I won't say it's true for everyone and it's a generalized statement, but um, monitoring helps by the parent, but also giving the child the autonomy to monitor themselves. So having a check or a checklist for the child to see what works for them, right? How is it affecting them? And that's where SEL comes in, right? How do we create self-awareness so that a child is able to manage their usage, is able to maintain, responsibility towards oneself, and they're also able to practice these different skills within their surroundings, right? So let's talk about self-awareness a little bit. So when we're talking about self-awareness, I think setting boundaries by the parents absolutely helps, right? So one of the things that you said was 10 o'clock, 10:30, the mobiles go inside, right? Or the phones go inside. And the usage is not there, right? Not there throughout the night. it's towards the morning that they might get the phone, right? So that's just one practical strategy that uh, parents can pick up or they can try, but it also has to be modeled, right? So if a child has to keep their phone at 10 o'clock, right? So does the parent, because how else, or how will they know, right? Like they want to see how it works for the parent as well.
I'll give you a worse example. Because we travel up and down this hill quite a bit, and so we're in the car, and one of my rules is no phones in the car.
Okay.
And there's always 100 excuses. I'm listening to an audiobook. I'm listening to some classical book. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm doing that. Oh, you're on your phone. But I fight for that, because that time when we're together, we can talk about what's going on in our life, and it is very limited. So but it's something that you can't be hypocritical about. It's something that you have to say, hey, look, I also value the time that we have right now off of screens, because we're all going to get back on them and do what's the important thing for us. So
Yeah.
that's always rough to get sucker punched.
Absolutely, Matt. And again, thank you for sharing that personal experience. Definitely, right? Like, even if you do set boundaries, there are going to be days where they don't, like, no one wants to listen, not even the parents, right? They just,
Yeah,
right?
clearly.
They want their own time. But sometimes just having that sort of consistency helps kids also understand that this is non-negotiable, right? And that helps build self-awareness in them as well. Not because they're strict, not because there is like a line that they cannot cross. It's not that. It's because they understand why that cannot be crossed, right? So having boundaries is extremely important. Being consistent with them, especially with any sort of behavioral, motives that we might have, it's extremely important. But it's also important to have a conversation around why this is done, right? Or how it's supposed to be done. And the reason, of course, we have to be flexible. Sometimes that's a no-brainer, but just being consistent with our conversations about the same thing, right? So if I'm saying, okay, we're going to go up the hills, but this is a time that I have with you. Can we talk about something? If you don't have anything to talk about, can we at least, think about what do we want to do next? What do we want to eat once we get back home? Or what is something that you're seeing right now, right? So having a conversation is extremely important, because this is something that also happens in the classroom, right? So setting boundaries, especially when we're talking about classroom management, now that's a different ball game altogether. Classroom management, where you have to set boundaries and you have to be extremely consistent with those boundaries, right? But at home, the parent does have more flexibility that way, right? And just understanding and modeling that is definitely one of them. That's just one of the uh, strategies that would be a suggestion from my end. Another one would be to practice a digital detox, right? So not having your phones for like a couple of days or like 3 days, and not just your phones, right? Like any sort of digital platform or any device, so that that connection, like the first day will be extremely hard. It's hard for me too, because I have my phone and I have my laptop with me like 24 into 7. Sometimes I even have it on my bedside table, right? And that's not okay, right? That's not okay, because as soon as I wake up, I'm checking what's on my laptop, right? But that's a habit that I'm trying to make. And the days where I feel like I have nothing to do, I just feel a huge slump, right? Like I don't know what to do, because this is how I've built my practice and this is how I've uh, built my habit, right? So practicing a digital detox little by little, right? Like one thing at a time, I think can be extremely helpful as well.
Can I give you a little life hack on that? So with
Absolutely.
digital detox, we try and break it into buckets, because you might just die if you detox from everything at once. And so um not to be revealing about our family, we're not different from any other family, but if let's say you go through some Netflix binge of a vampire show and it makes you have a bad attitude towards dads, because in the vampire show they hate dads. I don't know. Whatever. I'm totally joking,
Yeah,
but or let's say it's an attitude that let's say it's a bad attitude towards immigrants, or
right.
some show that just has some flavor to it that you see it's affecting the attitude of your family member. Then you go to them and say, hey dude, maybe you want to lay off the Netflix for a little bit, because I can see it's affecting you on this level. And, and maybe they don't have a social media addiction where they're on Facebook all the
Yep.
time, because there can be different compartments. Like, and that kind of goes back to the very beginning of, why are we involved in this media? Why are we facing with it? What's it going to give us right now? And asking that question really, can be liberating, especially if you are asking the question to solve the problem and not
Yeah,
to try and get control. I think that's the thing that you
yeah,
have to try and resist with this. This is not a control move. This is not you trying to control the social media world. This is a relational move
yeah,
with your team, this with your young adult, to say, hey, why is this happening and what's the benefit? How do we protect ourselves? And one thing that's super cool that I will say about this generation is they're a lot more savvy than we think, and
yeah,
they want to protect themselves.
yeah,
When as a dad and as an educator, when I go in there and I'm like, all right, look, I'm going to check all the security and all the Google and everything. I realize they've set some of the ecosystems up really security tight, and that's awesome.
yeah,
To see that they're being proactive, because we've been able to communicate, hey, be careful, you're the product.
yeah,
Anything that's free, you're the product. And then, beyond that, they really are a generation that's rising up and being able to respond to those measures in a way that is encouraging to me, at least, because I'm like kind of have daughters, and so I'm worried about security all the time, and so it's nice to see that they take it seriously themselves as well.
absolutely. And definitely that's an indication towards them understanding what safety means for them, right? That they're aware that this is what safety is for me, because uh, the consequence of it can be worse off, right?
Right.
And you were,
Right. I'll
yeah,
give you a total off-brand example. I was trying to explain to my oldest about how your phone is linked to an app on your phone, and that's where your money is,
yeah,
and that's more reliable than your card. And then walking through the whole digital wallet
yeah,
side of everything, because it's we don't we want I think for me it's a balance of responsibility and accountability. And it's like, hey, I want to communicate everything I can. Hey, this is how your bank works. You don't need your card
yeah,
anymore. You have an existence that's outside of that, and but then allowing an individual or my daughter or anybody to like wrap their head around that. Okay, so if I exist in this digital world, how visible do I want my finances to be, and how do I want to portray myself? And I think asking those questions,
mhm,
rather than just haphazardly saying, hey, look, world, this is who I am,
yeah,
but asking yourself those questions, hey, what do I want to put out there, can
absolutely.
also be a really a powerful tool.
Absolutely. And that builds self-awareness in kids, right? Where they're able to question their intentions as well. Where they're able to also question their behaviors. Right? Absolutely, man. And I think just to add on, there was something that you said earlier about how uh, when something is free, you're a product then, right? Like you're the product then. And one of the things that, struck me, and I've been a little baffled by the email that I recently received. So I recently received an email, and I know, right, that websites track your movement, but they don't outrightly send you an email saying, "Oh, you visited this page at this time. We're just leveraging what marketing does for us." That's exactly what it said, right? So we know it might sound very big brother type, very big brotherish, right? And however, we're just making use of what the platform does for us. And I had goosebumps, right? Like, I know that this is done. I'm very well aware of the tech world, very well aware
Yeah.
that this is something. But you go ahead and directly tell your consumers that we're tracking you. We know that you came here and we're tracking you. I'm already lost. I don't know what to do. I don't think I would ever go back to that site, right? Because I have a feeling that they're always tracking me, even though I know that even if I'm on any other platform, I'm still being tracked, right? They're just being honest, honestly,
Right.
right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think having that sense of awareness that whatever you do on the internet is going to remain there, right? So having that sense of awareness that setting boundaries for yourself is also very important. So asking yourself the right question, as what you said, or helping kids ask themselves the right question: Is this something that is required? Is this something that is going to benefit me even now, or even in the future? So yeah, that was about a little bit about self-awareness. Just jumping right into enhancing social awareness and relationship skills. Right. So one thing is about helping them emphasize or helping them understand the importance of empathy, understanding others' perspectives, and also building healthy relationships. Right. So we know that there are different parameters to this. Now, this is not something that can be solved in one day. So building empathy takes time, right? Everyone has a little bit in them, but just having that sort of awareness that this is what it is, right? And then working according to it. So when we say social awareness on a social media platform, we're saying, okay, this is something that they're posting. This is their life, right? This is something that they're comfortable with posting, or this is something that they're comfortable with communicating about, right? Is this something that I want to engage with? Is it something that I want to have a conversation about? Is it going to benefit me? If not benefit me, is it giving me a dopamine high, right? Like, is it helping me? Is it making me happy? So, one thing that makes me extremely happy, which is for no reason, are videos of dogs, right? Like, what, yeah. And that gives me like, it makes my day, and I'm good. I'm good for like an hour or so. But then I again hit a slump, right? Because I'm not the one interacting with them. I'm just looking at these like a 30-second short video, and I'm done, right? And that's it. And then I scroll past it. Where does my social awareness come then? Right? So where I start, I mean, I'm feeling very empathetic. I'm understanding their perspective. I'm also crying with a few families because they're posting something about uh themselves. But how do we help kids understand that being socially aware doesn't mean just on a social media platform, right? It also helps to understand, or helps in making them understand, that everything that is on there is someone else's perspective. We may not agree with everything. It's extremely right to question, uh, you know, whatever's coming towards you, right? Especially on a social media platform. So again, setting boundaries, time limits is something that is always or going to be there for them to understand that being socially aware on a social media platform is important, because you need to understand where you lie as well. But again, it's a blurred line, right? And it's
Well,
go ahead.
you know what? I'll think of it. I just thought of a useful tool to just communicate. It's we don't want to just assume that our young people know everything.
Exactly.
And so it's giving them good information and letting them know. It's sort of like, if a tough guy walks by, you don't want your 13-year-old son to get all husky and whistle that he's going to kick his butt or something. You don't want to do that. And so you want to, one of the things that I've communicated to my teens is, dude, when you're on social media, you need to be careful, because what you say can never be unsaid. This is not, it's not like you just yelled into a canyon that somebody's a jerk. It's there forever, and you don't know. And so it's part of just navigating that with them, of letting them know, do you the empathy part is navigating, do you realize that sometimes if you say something in public, it's gonna make people think this, and you're not thinking about that, but it could hurt their feelings and it could be a big issue. And so, it's sort of like modeling how to have good interactions on social media, and realizing you're going to have an effect. Make sure that what you say is polite, have respect, the kind of things that you would do if you were walking around town. Don't act like this is your bullhorn where you could yell out the most obnoxious thing that's possible.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because that was going to be my next point as well, because sharing, like talking about how promoting, or just promoting positive interactions on social media, is how that's extremely important, right? Because if that's not something that you would like to be heard, or would like for someone else to tell you, you wouldn't do that to someone else, right? No matter where it is, right? And we've heard of trolling, we've heard of bullying on the internet, and we know that these are extremely detrimental to the mental health of the individuals facing this, right? So even the one, like if we're the commentators, or we're the ones who are commenting, or we're the ones who are trying to interact with someone else, if we have nothing nice to say, I think it's always better to move on, right? Now, standing up for the right is completely different, right? So if there's a firm belief that they have and they want to communicate that, even that can be done in a polite manner, right? Even that can be kind, right? So being assertive is important in different aspects, but being kind and assertive is something that is definitely a skill that uh, is something that needs to be practiced, right? And I think that's again something that needs to be modeled with the kids. And that primarily happens not just with the parents, but also their own group of friends. So the friends that they have in school, or the friends that they have in their neighborhoods, or the kind of friends that they're trying to build friendships with, right? Or like anyone at all. These are just people or acquaintances that they're working with sometimes, on different projects. What sort of interactions are happening with them can sometimes get directly translated into what's happening in the online setting as well, right? So that's just, you have something to say, man. Go ahead. I can see. Okay.
Well, I'm just thinking of, for practical strategies on managing social media usage,
Mhm.
I want to really give some parents, teachers, educators a hack,
Mhm.
because, or maybe a hack, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If it eat the chicken, throw away the bones. It's in the engaging offline activities and hobbies.
Yeah.
This is something that's near and dear to my heart. I have kids that are constantly running around me, and I just asked my nephew to go and fish with me, and we caught a bunch of bass within 20 minutes because it was magical. I knew it was going to be an amazing fishing experience, but dragging him away from his video games
Mhm.
was really, really difficult. And it's something that I think as parents or educators, we can look at, hey, why doesn't my kid, or why don't these kids go outside and play with each other, not understanding that they're actually socially connected on Discord, and they have networks where they're actually communicating with each other. And so the hack is to realize, I was talking with some parents just recently, and they were like, I don't know why my kid won't answer the door when the neighbors come. And I'm like, he's playing video games, or at least socializing with his friends. And those kids that are coming to your door are just bored. They got done playing video games with their friends and just came and knocked on your door. And your kid doesn't want to go play with the bored kid because he's socializing. And so there's a value for us to be able to see
Yeah.
that kids are going to socialize
Yeah.
one way or the other. And so that we know that the way that we can understand the way that they're socializing is to be humble, is to communicate with them clearly,
Yeah.
to let them know that you're on their team. And I think a lot of the natural inclinations that we all have is to do the opposite of those things. And so I think it's one of those things that we need to realize, this is what exists, and so let's use it for what is valuable. But going and playing outside is something that will connect all of us with each other. It's also the reverse is true. Yeah, they do have a social network, doesn't mean we should all
Right.
play video games 24/7.
Absolutely.
And there is great value to going outside and getting connected and saying, hey, so how was your day? How was TomoClub?
Yeah.
What was that game that Chelsea made?
Right.
And
Having
you have to fight for it.
absolutely. Yeah. And having everything in moderation is fine, right? Even if the kids do want to play, fine, they can play. On any platform, whether it's in the offline setting or whether it's in the online setting, any setting is completely fine as long as they're socialized. However, we do know the effects of this, right? Right. And I think one thing that you rightly pointed out was uh, the positive aspect of having social media as well, right? Because they are socializing. And I think sometimes we do fail to recognize that. But how do we know it's the right thing to do? So I think one thing that you said again was having conversations with them, right? Instead of telling them what to do, we should be helping them in understanding what needs to be done, right? So I can be told to, just not do something without knowing why. So I'm going to do it again so that I understand why,
Right.
right? Because I don't have the answer to that question for myself. But no child is going to come and ask you why. I mean, they might, but you might not have an answer because you thought what was best for the child at that moment, and rightfully so. But that has to be communicated in some manner to the child where the child can see that there is a consequence to, uh, you know, anything in excess.
You know what I'm a super big fan of? I'm sure you probably do, is liberty.
Mm-hmm.
To even in social, like, think about how obnoxious it would be if your parents were controlled every part of your social life. That would be so crappy. But sometimes relationally, we go through stages where friendships are rough.
Yep.
And as a parent, it's one of those things that you have to let your kid have the freedom to be themselves, because we all go through those stages where we try on different personalities or inklings or passions, and we need that liberty to where, and I think as a parent that can be challenging, because you look at your kid and you're like, oh no, what if people are going to think you're weird on social media or something like that? And they're like, dude, this is just me. I'm just weird this month. I think as a parent, especially in this age where we're all trying to get that one shot, of like the perfect family and all of us in this perfect static environment, you know.
Yeah.
But I really, I like the fact that the work that you're doing doesn't neglect any of the aspects of this, the aspects that we should all be more interconnected. We should be having digital detoxes. We should be able to have conversations about boundaries and limitations. And oh gosh, this is something I totally have to share with you. This is a total win about social media and screen use, and that was to empower my family by not setting boundaries and limitations that are permanent,
Yeah.
because that has always been a roadblock, because the technology is changing so much, and we have been like, okay, so look, we all right, gotten down the hatches, got the iPad, got the screen, everybody's good. But give yourself the liberty to that's a communication piece, that give yourself the liberty to rejigger things and say, hey, you know what, we set these boundaries and limitations, but we're a team, so how are those working out?
Yeah.
How is that part working out? Because you could very easily get discouraged. So don't get discouraged. Give yourself the liberty to screw up on managing and helping everyone navigate social media. Can be weird, but you give yourself that liberty to say that. And that's what has happened a lot with our family, is we have to rejigger, where we're like, okay, there's no switch for the next week, but you can have a laptop and you can have this. And it changes every week, because sometimes we're traveling and we need to have different technology.
Yeah.
But that has been, and maybe that's just my weak little heart toward technology, but that is a total hack for me,
Yeah.
is giving myself the ability of like, hey, it's okay, dude, if we all have to have a different conversation about what works for each of us, because we're all contributing factors to what's happening. And so there doesn't need to be that ultimate, I think that's what I'm trying to say, is there doesn't need to be that ultimate slam down the rule,
Yeah.
hey, you get 45 minutes of your phone and nothing else kind of attitude. Instead, it's, hey, we're all trying to navigate what's happening and none of us have been here before, so let's be open in communication. I think that's kind of the mentality that I really try and take.
Absolutely, Matt. And I think that's something that must have been extremely effective for the family, right? Like that's because they know that they had the flexibility to, even ask if at all, right?
Right.
So as we were talking about this earlier as well, right? Having a boundary set is very important, but staying consistent with the conversations and being consistent with uh, the why of the boundaries is extremely important as well. And also being consistent with the boundaries is also important, especially for younger kids, right? Just for them to understand the consequences, the pros and the cons, for them to make effective decisions as they're growing up. Not right then, because there are times where parents have to intervene, but helping them build that autonomy with these decisions. So being consistent is definitely extremely important, especially with respect to having conversations around any of these boundaries and being flexible. Because if a child, really requires, and if they find it a safe space to talk to the parents about something that they need, they're going to grow, right? Like they're going to grow into individuals who think that it's okay to make mistakes, right? That it's okay to you know, it's okay if something doesn't work, right? So consistency it helps definitely, right? Along with flexibility, especially at right? So thanks for sharing that, Matt. And I was just coming to the last point of, one last strategy that we have been discussing, but just, just putting it out there. It's called the stop strategy for responsible decision making. And that's something that we all do anyway, right? It's a very conscious, like unconscious process of making a decision. We know that we first think about it, or at least some of us. I'm not talking about impulsive decisions, right? So some decisions that are well thought of. Uh, in those situations, we take a step back. We think about the different options that we have. We try to assess each of these options, and then we proceed and enact over those. Right? So it's called the stop procedure. So you first stop, you then think, then you map out your options, and then you proceed. Right? And the same is true for social media as well. So you stop, you think about, what needs to be done, you think about your different options, and then you proceed with the usage. Right? So I think building that sort of these responsible decision making skills in kids is extremely important. One example is that of, something that we were discussing in one of our sessions about opportunity cost, right? About how different, how different situations have an opportunity cost regardless of what it is. So it depends on what is right for you. You need to make a decision, or you will arrive at a decision based on which cost is lower, right, for you as an individual. And especially when you're in, and then when you're in a social environment, or in an environment that impacts, uh, in a situation that impacts the environment, then you have to think about the different options and then proceed with your decision. So yeah, so that's about it with respect to how SEL, in particular, social emotional learning, and can help in curbing social media addiction. That is by building self-awareness and the rest of the four uh, competencies about building relationship skills, self-management, social awareness, and responsible decision. So yeah, that's about it from my end. Would love for you, Matt, to just round us up with what has your experience been like, to just going towards the end. What has your experience been with helping kids make better decisions, not just in the online setting, but also in general in life? And what would you say about, say, the younger kids?
I would say, as far as decision making, the very best option to make progress has been to ask good questions.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do you want me to elaborate?
Yeah, you can. Yes, please.
I think it's with all of the life skills that we have taught our girls, setting boundaries and self-management skills. These are something that they see us do.
Yeah.
They're copycats. And it's stupid to go around and assume that they're having the same experience that I did when I was their age. And I think that the more I have taken not just my kids, but other young adults their age and empowered them, I've been surprised at how much they are willing to give,
Mhm.
and how much effort they're willing to put forth if they're not minimized, just treated as if they don't have the value to add anything to. I think what it is an exchange.
Right.
It's realizing it's coming to each person and realizing you have something to give me, and
Yes.
I have something to give you. And I think that what it really boils down to that, and being able to navigate. Okay, look, now we have a goal. How far can we go?
Right.
what's going to be our goal. And the social world is complicated enough that we need to have those conversations
Right.
that are like, hey, why does your heart want this to happen?
Yes.
Why do you, is it your brain or your heart? Like what is that draw? What is that thing that you're looking for? And I haven't gone into withdrawals in the times where I have had media fasts. I didn't go into withdrawals too hard thinking about what my friends might have,
Yeah.
how far they ran, or what route they rode their bicycles on, or what they ate
Yeah.
for dinner. Our brains have been wired. And so I think starting in a humble place and saying, hey, look, we're all walking through this journey of social media together, and having open conversations that are ongoing about why we're doing it, what's the value of it. And there's a lot of adults, that have gone through the social media journey. And
Right.
so I think we have something to give back to the next generation. And maybe they did all watch us, which is cool. And they're like, yeah, those zombies are like on Facebook. Forget that. But I think that we do need to be able to look back and say, hey, look, maybe we didn't get this right, but here are we need to let the next generation know what roadblocks to look out for in social media. Like you said earlier, look how much time you're doing it. Look, how's it making you feel? Start asking yourself those questions, and just help them navigate that
Right.
and realize social media isn't real. It's not real in every way.
Yeah. Absolutely. And thanks for, just compiling all the information that we shared in the last hour. But thanks, Matt, for your insight into and helping us also understand with different examples of your family and your kids, and helping us understand how, social emotional skills that your kids already possess, how that has helped, you know, your kids even question what they're doing, not only on social media, but in general as well. Right. So thank you so much again for that, Matt. And we'll close out now. Uh, but I would just like to say one concluding statement is that the kids are always watching the adults, right? No matter the age. I think till date, I watch what the adults in my family are doing. Of course, my perspective is different now, but as kids, we were always looking at, okay, this is something that's really nice. This is something that they got praised for, right? This is something that they got reinforced for. And maybe that's something that I can do as well. So if that's making you know, the adult happy, I think it can make me happy as well. So modeling what you believe in and what you want your kids to believe in is extremely important, whether it's for parents or whether it's the teachers in schools, or I think any adult around kids. And when I say kids, I'm saying teenagers, the lower age group along with the teenagers who are still in the growing age. So yeah, all right. Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming and spending your time with TomoClub today. And if you have any questions or any queries, please do reach out to us. Our number would be towards the end of this video. All right. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye bye.